Well, kicking off our costume designers panel today is Rudy Mance for The Alienist, Angel of Darkness on TNT. I'm Marcus James Dixon with Gold Derby. And first of all, just thank you for joining us during these weird, strange COVID times. You're Skyping in.
Thank you.
And in
Thanks for having me.
Yes, in season one of The Alienist, you were the assistant costume designer to Michael Kaplan. You took over at the end of the season, and now you are, I guess, the man in charge for season two, Angel of Darkness. What was it like coming back to this world after a 2-year break?
It was great. I was very lucky to see Michael in his process firsthand and sort of work with him to develop this world and develop the characters and sort of carve it out together with him, and then to get the chance to come back 2 years later and sort of have the foundation laid out for each of these characters and see and know where they came from, and then sort of take my own spin on it and push it forward 2 years. Uh, it was sort of like a perfect storm in terms of quality work.
Hmm. And Dakota Fanning's character, Sarah Howard, she's a private detective in 1890s New York, but you didn't film in New York. I believe you filmed in Hungary, is that right?
Yeah, we filmed in Budapest, the first season and the second season. And it was great on the first season because we went from literally it was just an empty field, and then our production designer on the first season, Mara Lapierre-Chaloup, she basically created these four massive streets that turned into New York. So it was like an incredible backlot. So you're just driving down a country road in Hungary, and then all of a sudden it's like New York in 1897. Um, and yeah, it was really incredible just to sort of go from nothing to that. And they were really smart with the way that they shot the streets and redressed them. And we, of course, used the costumes to make those four streets look like the entire.
Hmm. Let's talk about Dakota's look as Sarah. Some of her outfits are just so striking to look at. How would you describe her look? Maybe a gothic professional or something like that.
Yeah, she there was definitely a femininity to the character that we established in the first season, Michael and I. And so I wanted to keep that femininity, but also, you know, I also think she was very practical in the first season also, but I wanted to push that a little bit further, especially she created her own detective agency, and she was based after a real woman whose name escapes me now. It's been a while since research, but she was the first woman to ever become a New York NYPD police detective in that time in 1897. So at that time, women were of course all corseted and wore a lot of walking suits, but always dresses and skirts. So I made the decision to put her in pants, some wide leg culottes, which gave it a little bit of a modern edge, which I thought, paired with her being such a modern woman at that time. But I never wanted her to look out of place or have her silhouette look wrong when she was walking down the street or wherever she was in the time. So it was yeah, it was a great chance to sort of bring some modern flair and fashion into it, but still somewhat true to the period.
And how many of her looks were created from scratch, and how many were you able to obtain from other means?
Every single one in season two.
Wow.
We Yeah, I had a very very talented cutter named Catherine Shaw, who I found in London, and she came with us to Hungary. And yeah, every single piece that she wore, I think even down to her, even her underpinnings, because we had multiples and things like that. We built her corset, her chemise, her bloomers, her petticoats, and then just there wasn't a whole lot available in the costume houses that to get the shape of the culottes we had to build petticoats, but we had to do it out of it was basically a pair of petticoats, which we couldn't find readily, so we
Was Dakota somebody that was, very integral to the costuming process? Did she want to have a say in what kind of clothes her character wore?
She definitely always has an opinion, for sure, and we worked very closely, and off camera we're also quite close. So she was great. We could have very very open and honest dialogue, and there was very very few times in the second season where she said, I don't think this is my character. But that was also, we had done it for an entire year before the second season happened, so I sort of went in having a cheat sheet.
Hmm. There was an engagement party, this huge extravaganza, and I think it was the fourth episode, and it really made me stop what I was doing and pay attention to what everybody was wearing. So many costumes, so many wigs. What kind of pressure does that add as the costume designer when the script specifically says there's going to be, a costume party with dozens of characters?
um, it was definitely a challenge, because that came right in the middle of our 8 episodes. So you're sort of, it's sort of like you prep it like a movie within a movie,
Hmm.
because that was that we were doing Victorian times, but then everything, the theme of the party was Renaissance and anything before that. So the lucky thing was we were in the middle of Europe, so we could pull from all of the costume houses. I mean, we went everywhere from obviously here in LA, but we pulled from London, from Paris, from Madrid, Rome, Vienna. We sort of just bounced around and globe hopped and sort of.
Let's talk about the men's wardrobes for a moment, as the men tend to get overlooked in these period pieces by all the flowing dresses and the beautiful colors. What are the major differences between the two male leads, Dr. Chrysler, Daniel Bruhl's character, and John Moore, Luke Evans' character?
Well, Daniel's character was both of them came from means and from money, and in the books, they both had some form of wealth. Um, for Daniel's character, we kept him a little more classic, and he even skewed a bit older. At that time, most of the men his age probably would have worn like a sack suit or or a cutaway suit. But we made the decision, Michael Kaplan and I, on the first season to, he was a little more old fashioned, and so we decided to put him in a longer frock coat, which at that time would have been reserved generally for older men. Um, and then Luke Evans, I mean, he can wear anything and look fantastic. So we decided to make him a bit more of a dandy, and made him a little bit more fashionable and gave him a little more flair.
My two favorite characters were the two nerdy scientist characters, and
Yeah.
I loved when they were in the lab, analyzing blood or whatever. They were wearing these rubber vests, which was so interesting. Can you talk about those items?
Yeah, that was actually, I have to give a shout out to Ellen Mirajnik, who gave me my first ever design job on a show called The Nick, when I was living in New York. Similar period, a little bit later, 1901, and it was about the first ever hospital. So we did a lot of research, and came up with those. But those were literally just they were normally made out of leather, but for our purposes, we made them out of a rubberized. Can't remember. It's so awful. I can't remember the exact material, but it was. We played with different thicknesses, and came up with those. But those were they looked almost something like a gothic S&M club, but they were absolutely accurate.
Hmm. All told, how many costumes would you say you created for this project? It was 8 episodes only, and what, hundreds?
Yeah, yeah. We ran into to some budget issues, in all honesty, early on, and so we worked out some deals and and decided that it was cheaper to just buy a bunch of fabric and have the suit made, as opposed to trying. Also, I think with the background and all in, I want to say maybe around 700 or so. Um,
Wow.
yeah, I think we made probably close to a little over 500, between men and women, for the background, and then with all of the changes and everything, I think we had over 200 principal casts. So yeah, probably around 700, I'd say. It's crazy to think about.
Hmm.
Once you
Well,
grow.
last time was season 1 of the Alienist. You were nominated at the Emmy Awards, and so we wish you luck this time. And is there going to be a season 3 of any sort?
I don't know, honestly. I don't think so, but I honestly don't know. I know that there were 3 books in the series, but the second one kind of the second series we kind of went off script in terms of followed it
Hmm.
loosely. So
Well, there are millions and millions of fans who have their fingers crossed for a 3rd edition.
too.
Well, thank you so much for chatting with us.
Thank you.